Good morning. It is Tuesday, July 5th. You can hear the construction from my neighbor. They are clearing out their woods for something. I'm walking 2 days in a row, which is pretty impressive. I had to do a lot of extra stretching this morning. But I was up early, so I figured I'd give it a shot. I may not be able to do my full 4 laps of my driveway, but even if I only do half, that's still something towards getting stuff done. That may actually just be my goal, is to do half. Like I said, my goal is to get to daily walking. That daily walking does not have to be the full 4 laps. So I have no idea what he's doing. But it is Volby logging trucks, which is what's pulling in right now. I'd flip you around, but I want to respect his privacy. Being out here in the country, we are seeing some, you're about to see it over my shoulder, logging trucks. Some of our neighbors sometimes on the larger lots will clear their land and sell the logs, sell the lumber. So, guess it's time. It's a resource you have. You have to clear the land anyways because you want to do something with it. Makes sense. But that's been going on for a couple days. It happened behind our house, and they owned probably 30 acres behind our house, if not more. And it took them over a week to clear. It was loud, very loud. Like, my afternoon naps were very disturbed, loud. It was very grumpy. I hope everyone had a decent enough evening. The news yesterday made it so I didn't sleep too well. Whenever events happen like that, I find them very triggering. So I've gotten to a point where we're getting to a point where we just opt to we're not going to do events. We're not going to go to events where large groups of people gather. We chose not to go to Pride in Raleigh this year. Partly because I just had another COVID booster, and I was in the flare of processing that. I could have pushed it if I really wanted to. It would have been a bad choice, but I could have. But also being in groups of people is now triggering. I mean, there's no other way to put it. My son has trouble with that after the years of dealing with being in the American school system. And I do too. And then every time a holiday comes around and something happens, it reinforces that. So we just stay out here in the country. And I feel horrible for the families. I saw a couple of the videos. I was on YouTube when news started coming in, and actual news sources weren't reporting on it yet. It was that active. So one of my news sources that I follow, as Emily D. Baker puts it, alternative news sources, which are totally valid. It's just not legacy news sources like NBC or CBN or anything like that. Like alternative news sources, which is basically just journalists like Emily D. Baker and on YouTube and stuff, people reporting. So I follow some channels like that who get their news sources from TikTok and Twitter and more live feeds, which is great for getting immediate information, not so great for being able to fact check that information. So you have to kind of, take things with a spoon of salt, pinch of salt. Really messed that one up. Anyway, so it had come through and I pulled up that feed, and it's a decent enough channel. They're pretty good about, being as neutral as possible, trying to pull up decent Twitter feeds for information, like trying to find official feeds and stuff, but also trying to find, this person was here. Can we actually verify they were there? They've got a photo posted. Let's pull up a map and make sure this is actually from the area, the correct area. And I respect that. They, basically trying to fact check live on air. He, as reports started coming in, started trying to screen stuff before immediately putting it on. But the first couple of videos were a little, like, he didn't put anything that would have flagged the channel YouTube wise. But for me, as someone who struggles with PTSD and stuff like that, even though YouTube doesn't flag it, it was still triggering for me of people in the crowd and stuff. So I dealt with that. And I mostly dealt with that by acknowledging that it was a situation that had happened again, because it's the United States. And moving on. Like, I don't know what else to do at this point. The laws that need to be put in place to change this, and I'm a gun owner, we have guns, the laws that would need to be implemented to stop events like this from happening, hi Toby, are like, they know which ones would have the greatest impact on this. And they just need to put them in place. I mean, the last attempt they tried, like, they at least tried with this last bill. The Boyfriend Loophole will have the biggest impact on stopping these types of events from happening, which, all right, that's 2 loops. I mean, I can do one more. The Boyfriend Loophole, if you're unfamiliar with it. Okay, so, like I said, I'm a gun owner. We've had guns for over a decade. I had a concealed carry license before I developed arthritis. It was actually really good. Target shooting. I allowed my concealed carry to lapse when I developed arthritis because if you can't control your weapon, you don't need to have a weapon. And with my arthritis, I cannot consistently control my weapon. I can't control my grip. So I do not carry any longer. As a law-abiding gun owner, I wholeheartedly believe that there should be more gun laws because I have no problem following gun laws. They're not going to impact me because I follow the laws. Increase the background checks, definitely. Increase, the wait times. Sure, I don't mind waiting longer to get a weapon. They really need to increase having people actually know what the heck they're talking about when they write these laws, because they write these laws in such a way that make them useless. But that's a tangent I'm not going on. Anyways, the Boyfriend Loophole. If you're unfamiliar with it, I'm not going to be giving a very good explanation of it, so please feel free to look it up. There are excellent videos on it explaining it in very good detail. But the very bare bones gist of it is there are laws on the books that say that people with domestic violence convictions, DV convictions, can't purchase a firearm again. That's supposed to be the law, basically. The gist of the law. If someone has a restraining order out, that's Toby. If someone has a restraining order out against them, they can't purchase a firearm. Seems very logical. If you have a restraining order, don't give someone a weapon. But there is a boyfriend loophole where if the party that has the restraining order is not married to the other person, so it was a domestic partnership, they were just dating, which is what it's called, a boyfriend loophole. They were just dating. When they got the restraining order, it doesn't flag the system, basically. So people who were just in dating relationships or just living together, doesn't flag the system, even though the restraining order is there, and they can get the firearm, which is a problem. It's a loophole. It's a known issue. It's been a known issue. The reason this can impact situations like what happened yesterday in Highland Park is because almost every single case of a mass shooting situation, and the legal definition of a mass shooting is like 4 or more people injured, or in a large area type thing. They happen a lot more common than the news actually reports. Come on, Toby. Is almost all of them. It's like upper 90%, aside from the other markers of being male, typically, being white, typically, being in the age range of 20 to 30 year old age range. I mean, obviously there are outliers to this, but these are the typicals. Come on, Taffy. But almost all of them, like 90%, have at least some sort of domestic violence flag on their record. They've been reported for it. They have a restraining order. Taffy. You're going to flip. There's Taffy. They have a domestic violence in their background. They got something has been called for them on domestic violence. It's extremely high. I may be wrong on the percentage. It may not be 90%. It may be like 70%. It is such a ridiculously high number that strengthening the gun laws around domestic violence and closing the boyfriend loophole will be the single one thing that would have a direct effect on these events. That's all they have to do. But their reluctance on doing it, at least in my opinion, is that the reported, this is reported, not unreported, the reported domestic violence rate among police officers is 40%. You tighten up laws around gun ownership, and that's going to directly impact our police force. If you say that people who have a single domestic violence charge or report on their record can't own guns or work in a field that handles weapons, that's going to decimate through our police force, which is probably why there's such hesitancy on passing that legislation. Probably can't speak. Which is why that one law, which would have the most impact and save the most lives, not even what's reported in the news, just what's happening every day, it would be the hardest to pass. Oh, three laps was my limit today. Angry talking got me through it. Look up the boyfriend loophole if you're unfamiliar with it. If you do feel like doing any sort of action in light of Highland Park, contact your congressman and send them an angry letter telling them you support closing the boyfriend loophole and stronger gun laws in support of specifically gun laws surrounding domestic violence, because those would be the single most impact. Removing guns, I'll just go on a tangent here. Removing guns from the population is unrealistic. And I'm not saying that as a gun owner who wants to give up the guns and that sort of thing. It's unrealistic. The number of guns in America, you could have someone voluntarily, get rid of a gun a second in America, and it would take lifetimes to get rid of the number of guns in America. So bans or trying to get rid of guns in America is unrealistic. The number of guns in America, those laws look good on paper. They are not actually going to help the problem, which is what I meant by lawmakers passing laws that don't actually do anything. The lawmakers actually know they don't do anything. They know these numbers. They look good to people who are not familiar with this stuff. The recent ban New York City passed on Kevlar was worded in such a way that it only impacts stuff that isn't being sold and hasn't. I mean, it is being sold, but it's like old technology that went out of favor 25 years ago. Like, the people who buy stuff for body protection now buy more current stuff that isn't even covered under this law. I guess old tech is what's covered. But because it's Kevlar, and that's what people know the name of, they can make it sound like they're doing something, but they're not. That's why people need to be more familiar with guns and gun culture, actually guns and gun culture, and know what these lawmakers are passing so it doesn't sound like they're doing stuff and they're not actually doing anything. The boyfriend loophole and laws surrounding domestic violence is where we get actual change. That's what, if you want to pressure your congressman and state leadership, because that's with our current Supreme Court, everything's going back to the state. So you need to send your letters to the state level right now also. And sending letters, actual physical letters and emails help. Like paper and pen. It's kind of annoying, but I send letters. Domestic violence, boyfriend loophole. Those are keywords. Send them out. That's where you need to send them. That's what you need to be talking about. Bans, telling assault rifles. Those are fantasy terms. I hate to put. They're meaningless. They're not going to actually help. Domestic violence laws, boyfriend loophole. Those are the keywords that actually will impact anything. Anyways, I'm gonna go inside and get cleaned up, and I'm sweaty, even though I did only 3 laps. And I'll quit ranting about this. I'm actually really upset, but I'm angry upset. I'm not a crying upset today. So yeah, stay safe. Hug your loved ones, and if I'm able to walk tomorrow, I'll talk to y'all tomorrow.